Welcome to the Money Talk podcast. Today, we're going to be reacting to a video from More Perfect Union about how Uber is robbing their drivers. Now, as I react to this, it's not just about confirming what they say or believing what they say. I want to make sure we're taking a deep dive into reacting to their claims. If they're saying Uber is doing one thing, we're going to pause it. We're going to do a search, see what drivers are saying, if this information is accurate or not. We have a bunch of other topics that we'll also cover today. And I also have a new video that I put out today. It's where Uber Lyft driver is being exposed for their claims that they made $3,000 in 1 week. After this video, make sure you go and check it out. When this video ends, it'll automatically bring you to my latest video. So without wasting any more time, we're gonna get started reacting to this video. You might have seen it, but we're gonna help make sure that their information is accurate.
Uber and Lyft prices are out of control. Just the other day, I needed a ride from Denver Airport. $90, $87.95 to be exact, for a 22-mile ride at 10 a.m. on a Monday.
Okay, so right off the bat, she's saying she spent $87.95 for a 20-mile ride. So that means that ride costs her $4.39 per mile. All right. Keep that number in mind. It's gonna be very important.
Is that him? It got me thinking, does Uber actually want me to believe that this ride is worth $90? Because as much as I don't want to pay $90 for a 22-mile ride, if that money—
I made a mistake. It was $22. All right. So we want to make sure we're as accurate as possible. So $87.95. She said 20, but it's 22. So $3.99 per mile.
Going to the driver, I can live with that. A 2-mile ride, if that money's going to the driver, I can live with that.
This is in Colorado.
I yesterday came in from the airport and the app charged me $90.
Yes.
$90. How
Yes.
much of that do you think is going to the driver?
Going to the driver, like $25 the most.
All right, he said $25 the most out of that $90 is going to the driver. Let's see if that feels normal, right? So she said $25, and we're gonna divide that by a 22-mile ride. So that gives us an average earning of $1.13 per mile. So as a rideshare driver, I've been doing this for about 3 years, going on 3 years in October. I guess it's been 3 years. I would say between 80 cents and $1.20, that range is usually what I get when I'm doing rideshare. So this looks accurate, right? So his numbers doesn't seem far-fetched. So it looks like she's paying about $90 for her ride, and he's only getting about 20. But what does that work out to from a percentage standpoint?
You know how much a passenger pays for each trip?
Company, they don't tell us, they try to hiding with that. Yes, they try to hiding everything.
So it seems the majority of my money is not going into my driver's pocket. And my driver has no knowledge of the exorbitant price I'm paying or how much of that the company is taking. And we're all just okay with that.
Okay, so I do want to address this point. There is a way for drivers to see how much passengers are making, like the total breakdown, but you can't see it before you make a decision on the ride, right? So this is a ride that I've done in the past. The upfront fare was $12.98, but in the app, you're only seeing the upfront fare. You're not seeing what Uber is actually charging the passenger unless you go here. And the only way you get here is if you go on the desktop and you sign into the Uber website, and then you can pull up all your rides. So you really do have to dig deep for it. All right, so the customer price was $22.92. Shows you the third-party fees, $1.63 for booking, 21 cents for the region or city fee. So my city charges Uber 21 cents for every single ride. I don't know why they do that. And then it says my earnings was $12.98. And of the $12.98 that I made, Uber took $8.10. Right? So we can run math on that, right? We can run some math on that. So $12.98. Or let's do what percentage is, what was it, $8.10 of $12.98. So that's 62%. So out of what I got paid, right? Actually, no, I'm pretty sure I just did that math wrong. Hold on, we'll correct that. It's customer price. That's where we need to start. So 22.92. 22.92. What percent is 12 of 22.92? That's 52%. I only got paid 52% of what the passenger paid, and the rest went to Uber and, city fees, taxes, whatever they have to do. But I'm not gonna. I don't want to make it seem like I'm only cherry picking that one ride. So here's another ride, right? And this one kind of swings the other way. This one, the fare was $36.03. The fare was actually $11. There was a $21 surge on top of that, and then the Uber X priority, and then I got tipped $4.99. So my earnings was $41.02. The customer paid $24.99. So that means I earned more than the customer paid, but that's because of the surge and the tip. So about $25 came from surge tip, and then the customer paid $24 into the rest. So booking fee $355, the region fee doesn't change. My earnings was $41. The Uber service fee is negative $14.80. So that means Uber paid me on top of the customer's pay $14.80. And it's important to highlight that because Uber isn't profitable on every trip. Now, this is like peak. This is probably on a Saturday, the height of busyness, which is really the only time I ever go on Uber because usually I do Lyft. I find Lyft to be more consistent in my market, but sometimes Lyft has awesome surges. So only in moments where there are really high surges will Uber be losing money. But it is important and fair for me to acknowledge that this is a scenario in which Uber did lose some money. I got over 100% of the payment. Ron says $62 from Somerville to Savannah. Yeah, that's really bad. I will not take that ride for less than $100. And if it's like $85, $90, sometimes I'll think about taking it because I might get a tip. And I don't even really like hoping on the might, but it depends on the time of day and what's going on. Uber doesn't allow you to get surge on a reserve pickup. While that is technically true, what I've done in the past and was successful with, I have recorded my screen when I had a surge right before getting a reserved pickup. And then when I show that to support, it's a hassle. You have to go and chat, show support, talk to them. It's all a hassle. They'll actually refund you the money. And I can't look for it now. It was a long time ago, but I'll find it and I'll show it to you. So let's jump back into this video.
The answer I got at the Denver International Airport from drivers and customers was a resounding no. So why is it happening? If we're all against it, can't we do something about it? That $90 Uber ride from the Denver airport I keep referencing, I started my investigation there. What unfolded after led me to the truth about how rideshare drivers are paid and the various ways organizers are working to change it.
Hi. For Isabella?
Yes.
All right. How are you doing today?
He has a 2-phone setup.
I am good.
I like
Thanks
it.
for asking.
Do you drive for Uber and Lyft?
I do. I drive full time. I drive over 60 hours a week. I do this pretty much every single day.
That's a little more than full time, I'd say. 60 hours. That's a lot of hours driving. Does that pay the bills? Is it a little less, or how does that pan out?
So over time, the money that we take as Uber and Lyft drivers has gradually been going down, and it's at its worst right now.
Okay, so I do want to jump into that claim that driver pay is going down. All right, so this is Bard. This is my AI assistant. We're going to ask Bard, show us how much drivers make on average per hour year over year for the last 10 years. Let's see what it brings back for us. All right, so 2012, the average hourly earning was $15.21, and it seems to be trending upwards. So 2021, we have 18.83. I mean, these are still pretty low. $18 an hour on average for a rideshare driver. I didn't put rideshare driver in here. Let's make it more specific. Let's even say Uber driver. Okay, so now that we put Uber driver in, these numbers are actually decreasing. Okay, this can't be accurate. All right, it says source U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Please note these are just averages. Link me to the source. I want to make sure it's accurate. Couldn't find a direct link. All right, so let's try. Show me the average that ride share drivers make per mile for the last 10 years, year over year. The average amount that rideshare drivers make per mile has been steadily decreasing over the past 10 years. In 2013, the average rideshare driver made $1.18 per mile. In 2023, the average rideshare driver makes 0.82 cents per mile. So this is actually this lines up with what I see in my market. Even though I make these videos of how I'm making X amount of money per week, I'm still having to put in hours to get there. If I know New Yorkers make this much, but even on my rate card, I can pull up my rate card, Lyft rate card for Charleston. I don't think they have that information public anymore. Cost per minute. This isn't it. Oh, here it is. All right, so let's see if we can zoom in here. Base fare, cost per mile. It says 98. This is old though, so this is no longer even like in play since we've gone to upfront fare. But you can see like it's less than what the average said it before, and this is old. This isn't even accurate to what drivers are getting paid now. So his claim that drivers are making less over time, it seems to be accurate. 2013, you can see like the scale how it's going down, down, down. As you can see, the average rideshare driver earnings per mile has decreased by 31% since 2013. There are a number of factors that have contributed to this decrease, including increased competition. The rideshare industry has become increasingly competitive in recent years, with new companies entering the market. To me, I don't understand how that would lower pay. It should improve it, if anything. This has led to lower fares for passengers. Okay, so that's what it is. This has led to lower fares for passengers, which in turn point downward pressure on driver earnings. Okay, I'd never realized that. So the rising costs, the cost of driving a rideshare vehicle has also been increasing in recent years due to factors such as fuel prices and vehicle maintenance costs. This has further eroded driver earnings. That's a fair point. Changes in pay structure. Some rideshare companies have changed their pay structure in recent years in ways that have made it more difficult for drivers to earn a good living. This is true, and I've made a video about this. For example, some companies have switched to a distance-based pay model, which pays drivers based off of the distance they drive, regardless of the time it takes to complete a trip. That is also true. This can be a disadvantage to drivers who live in areas with heavy traffic, as they spend more time driving than they do picking up and dropping off passengers. I refuse to drive during traffic time for this reason. I have learned very quickly that if you're stuck in traffic, you're not making money. And I didn't know that the model was different before. Despite these challenges, many rideshare drivers still enjoy the flexibility and the independence of the job. So I'm curious, what system did Uber use to calculate pay before switching to pay per mile? Before switching to a pay per mile system, Uber used a combination of factors to calculate driver pay, including time, distance, and surge pricing. The exact formula was not publicly disclosed, but it was generally understood that drivers were paid a base fare plus an additional amount for each minute and mile driven. I'm pretty sure that's how it works today, but I assume that the rates were better before. Surge pricing was a factor, with fares being automatically increased during periods of high demand. The pay per mile system was introduced in 2019. See, that's about the time I started driving, so I didn't even know there was a different system before. Introduced in 2019 as a way to make Uber's pay structure more transparent and predictable for drivers. More transparent, what a lie. Under this system, drivers are paid a fixed amount per mile driven, regardless of the time it takes them to complete a trip. Surge pricing is still in effect, but it's now applied on a per mile basis rather than a per minute basis. I didn't know that. That's huge. It should have been both. That's a huge difference. Uber's pay per mile system has been met with mixed reactions from drivers. Some drivers appreciate the transparency and predictability of the new system, while others argue that it leads to a decrease in overall earnings. Uber has defended the new system, arguing that it's fairer and more sustainable way to compensate drivers. I remember the switch over to like upfront pay. There were like drivers who were happy that they could see ahead of time, and there were other drivers who thought it was just like masqueraded as a pay decrease. Here's a table of the old and new pay systems. So the old pay system, new pay system, time base fare plus additional amount per minute. New pay system not a factor. That I don't know. I haven't seen that. Maybe upfront pay it's become less of a factor. I wouldn't say it's not a factor. It's much less of a factor. Distance base fare plus additional amount per mile, fixed amount per mile. Okay, that seems accurate. Surge pricing automatically increases fares during periods of high demand. Applied on I would, oh man. If surge pricing was applied on a per mile basis, it would then make it worth taking long rides. And like as you guys have seen, it's currently not worth taking long rides, right? All the rideshare drivers pretty much agree with that. I do think there are certain times of the day where I might do a long ride, but from a mileage perspective, it usually just doesn't add up. Like Ron said earlier, $62 from Somerville to Savannah. Let's look that up. Somerville to Savannah. I don't know. I don't want this to show my location. Do I press enter? I'm not gonna do it. I don't want to dox myself. I don't know what's gonna show up on Google Maps. So we'll just continue with this video.
I remember when we started driving for Uber and Lyft, per our contract, they were supposed to only take 25%, and then we get 75% of the ride. But that's not the case anymore. They take, I'd say, at least 60% of our fare right now.
Okay, I want to go and see how true this is, right? I don't want to sit up here and only like give you my opinion on things. I want to show everyone who's like watching, like how does everyone else feel about this, right? So, did Uber ever agree to only take 25% from rideshare drivers? This would definitely be before my time. I'm willing to bet. So it says Uber has never publicly stated that it would take only 25% of the fare from rideshare drivers. However, there has been some reports that this may have been an informal agreement between the company and its drivers in the early days of the company. These reports suggest that Uber may initially agree to take a smaller cut of the fare in order to attract drivers to the platform. However, as the company has grown, it has also increased commission rates. Today, Uber typically takes around 28%, I think that's a lie, of the fare from rideshare drivers. I think it's higher. This can vary depending on the location and other factors. It is important to note that these are just reports and there's no concrete evidence to confirm that Uber ever made a formal agreement. Today, Uber's commission rates are a source of, I'm gonna go to Google for this. Uber agrees to 25%. Uber not taking its biggest. What is this? This is from 2014 from Forbes. Okay, the ads are crazy. It says drivers who sign up for UberX in San Francisco on or after September 2 will fork over an unprecedented 25% of their earnings to Uber. Okay, so, I mean, all right, so AI got it wrong. That's the highest ever UberX commission, which has always been 20% or less. So it actually used to average out to be about 20% or less. And it's just the latest way Uber is shaving off more and more drivers. And this was back in 2014. This article is more than 9 years old. So there you have it. His claim is correct. This was long before I started driving. And his claim of how much Uber is taking is pretty accurate. Let me close off some of these tabs. Try to stay organized. All right, so that claim checks out.
Now, and that is just not good of our fare right now. And that is just not good for us drivers. And you have to put in more hours now. There's no transparency because we used to see how much you as a passenger got charged for the ride, but not anymore.
I didn't know
And why
that.
do you think these rideshare companies keep this information from you guys and from the customers? Why do you think they hide it?
I think they hide it because we know how much they're charging these passengers, and how much, if we knew any more than we already know, what we can demand for.
That's true.
Eric believes Uber and Lyft don't want drivers to understand the full scope of the money each driver is losing per ride, because that would give drivers fuel to demand more. I wanted to follow up on this theory and find out if Uber really takes 60% of its drivers' fares, like Eric says. Fortunately, I found a researcher.
All right, before we get into that, I'm going to respond to some comments. Panama 310 says upfront pay is trash. I agree with you. It's nice to know before ahead of time, but like upfront pay is like knowing when danger is ahead of you. So it's like, you know, it's still not as great as it was before, but at least you know that it's not as good as it was before. All right, so Ron says from Savannah to Somerville to Savannah is 90 miles. Yeah, that ride should at least be $1 per mile, because if you don't get, it's very unlikely, it's very hard to get someone coming back from Savannah to Charleston, but it's always more likely to get someone going from Charleston to Savannah. Leon says, have you tried Spark in your area? Actually, I tried Spark for the first time this past weekend, and I'm going to make a video on it. I'm going to make a video on one, Lyft driver tries Spark for the first time, and then 2, is Spark worth it? So I'm going to do a full week of Spark, and I got really into the details about, you know, the things that I was experiencing, how the app could be better, should drivers keep doing this, who this is for. So I will be making a video on that. It's going to take some time. I've got a couple other videos that I'm going to be putting out before it. But let's get back to the video where she's actually about to talk to a researcher who has some data, and I'm going to sign up to throw my data at this company as well.
Who's already on the case in Boulder, Colorado.
The best way to think about this research is...
So Ron asks, what is Spark? Spark is Walmart delivery. It's like Instacart, except you don't always have to do the shopping. It works for Sam's Club and Walmart. It's made by Walmart. And sometimes you can do the shopping. Like, I haven't tried the shopping portion just because that's the thing. That's the reason I don't do Instacart, is because I don't like shopping. But at least with Walmart Spark, most of the Walmart locations, it's easier to get used to one grocery store than using Instacart, where you have to get used to like 10 different grocery stores. So I will eventually try that portion of it as well. But I want to at least master just the pickup.
Is an exploration. The best way to think about this research is an exploration of how we can give drivers and organizers the data and the tools that they need to investigate their working conditions. So basically what our research team did was we built a software tool, which is called FareFare. And the FareFare tool does kind of what the name implies. It tries to tell drivers if their fare, like how much they're paid, was fair.
Real quick, the data Samantha's about to get into is preliminary. Her research team relies on driver participation, and what they've done is just the start of what they hope will trigger a price transparency revolution nationwide.
I like that.
The most interesting trend for us and for our community partners was around the difference in take rates for surge versus non-surge rides. Take rate basically refers to how much the platform takes from every customer fare.
So I'm a little biased here. I would have preferred if the take rate was the percentage that the platform takes from the driver. It would have been a larger percentage. It would have looked more disgusting, but that's because I'm biased and I'm a driver. I think that with take rate being a percentage of what the customer pays, maybe this video will have a more widespread audience. Like, this video already has almost 500,000 views. It'll probably hit it by the end of this week. It came out last week. So they did a great job of targeting both customers and drivers. There are obviously going to be more customers on Uber and Lyft than there will be drivers. So this video is becoming part of a larger conversation that addresses the frustration between both passengers and drivers. And it's aiming all of the firepower at Uber. And I think they're doing a very great job of that.
So in our case, all 10,000 rides came from Uber drivers. And we found that with surge pricing rides, the most common take rate was about 53% versus I think around like 46% for non-surge pricing rides, which is a huge difference really.
And why do you think these apps haven't been very transparent about these ratios?
In general, We think that there may be three possible reasons why companies don't want to be transparent. One reason may be, it's a lot of work to release data sets publicly. It takes a lot of labor, it costs a lot of money.
I'm going to say, so she's going to give three reasons to why she thinks Uber is not releasing that data, and I'm going to address each of them. So the first reason, I'm going to rewind it.
The
so you can hear it
reason
again.
to couple
These apps,
percent for non-surge pricing rides, which is a huge difference, really.
and why do you think these apps haven't been very transparent about these ratios?
This is reason
In
one.
general, we think that there may be three possible reasons why companies don't want to be transparent. One reason may be, it's a lot of work to release data sets publicly. It takes a lot of labor, it costs a lot of money. Another reason is that, maybe.
So she's right. It does take a lot of work. It does probably takes a lot of money. You have to create the systems that put that data out. But Uber already had this, right? When Uber launched, they used to tell us, let's look it up. When did Uber stop sharing with drivers how much customers were paying? Uber has a history of changing how it shares fare information with its drivers. In July 2021, the company was caught hiding the full fare amount from drivers in some markets. The following month, Uber announced that it would start showing drivers the full fare charged to customers. However, in late 2022, Uber again stopped sharing the full amount with drivers. The exact date on which Uber stopped sharing the full fare amount with drivers is not publicly known. However, it is believed to have happened sometime in the late summer of 2022. I started driving with Uber for the first time in 2023 because I was actually banned from their account for so long. Not even banned. I had something on my MVR report that they wouldn't like take off, and I couldn't use it. I eventually got it taken off, and now it can. So I don't know anything about Uber's history before 2023. The company has not provided a reason for this change, but is likely due to the desire to maintain control over pricing and prevent drivers from cherry-picking fares. Uber's decision to stop sharing the full fare amount with drivers has been met with criticism, and from some drivers and customer advocates. They argue that the lack of transparency makes it difficult for drivers to make informed decisions about which fares to accept, and that it could lead drivers to being underpaid, which that checks off. That does check off. Uber has defended its decision, arguing that it's necessary to protect its pricing algorithms and ensure that drivers are not confused by multiple fare amounts. Well, I mean, you wouldn't have to confuse them if pricing was consistent. It doesn't make any sense. The company also points out that drivers can still see the estimated fare before accepting a ride. The debate over whether Uber should share the full fare amount with drivers is likely to continue, and it's continuing right now. However, for now, drivers will need to rely on other sources for information, such as third-party apps, to get better senses of how much customers are paying. All right, so reason one, so we're seeing that they used to collect that data, they used to put out that data, and then they stopped. So we know that reason one is debunked. That can't be right. That can't be accurate. So let's see what she says for reason two.
Publicly, it takes a lot of labor, it costs a lot of money. Another reason is that, maybe companies don't actually store this information. And then a third reason would.
All right, so number two, we debunked number two already with number one. They had the information. We know they had the information because they were showing us the information. Before we get to number three, I'm going to respond to some comments. Ron says Shopmates 2.0, I guess. I can infer what Shopmates is, but I actually never heard of it. Mike says, I'm currently in San Diego area. Average offer is less than $1 per mile, around 70 cents. I'd say I'm not sure how this can continue. This area is more expensive than San Francisco. So I live in Charleston, which I consider a mid-cap market. The cost of living is pretty low. I used to live in New York City, so to me, the cost of living everywhere is pretty low. But Charleston, for the city that it is, my house costs, $167,000. We're in Somerville, pretty good deal. A house like this would probably go for like maybe the high fours in New York, in the outskirts of New York City. And I say that because I average, between bad days and good days, I average about 80 to 90 cents per mile. And so if you're averaging less than $1 per mile and you're living somewhere that's more expensive than San Francisco, that sucks. That straight up sucks. Like that's pretty bad. Ron says, could you do a video on why majority of Uber drivers refuse to accept rides in rural area? Yeah, sure. That sounds like that's a good. I would have fun doing that. Lately, I've been staying in the city more. When I first started, I would drive off into rural areas, but we'll see. I would like to explore that. Real Talk Christina says, hi, Tristan. Hi, Christina. Welcome to the channel. Christina says, I'm sure they do keep some of it because it might say an amount offered to the driver and then change after. Yeah, that happens. That happens. So let's figure out why. Let's take a look at the third reason she claims as to why these companies don't want to share data with us.
Which seems to be, maybe companies don't actually store this information. And then a third reason, which seems to be, most common amongst organizers and definitely a very plausible reason, is that companies don't want to release this information because it would invite inquiry into how they're operating. Information really is power.
So that sounds closer to the real answer. I think the real answer is that they don't want drivers to know. It's easier to take advantage of drivers if they're ignorant. And I hate leaning on the negativity side of that. But Uber and Lyft, I would say Uber more than Lyft, but both of these companies have shown us that they will make decisions that aren't in favor to drivers, and they'll do it in very sneaky ways. So I'm not going to play the entire video. I want you guys to go and support this video. It'll help the video get out there. Go like this video. I'll drop it in chat right now, but you can check it out later. We'll move on to the next topic. Let me clear up some tabs. All right, so I actually have the, this is, if you want to do the study, I'm gonna put this in chat as well. This is where you would go and you can sign up for updates. I'm gonna actually do that too. You can email me, guys. It's fine, it's my business email. Do whatever you want. And you can join the study. I'm gonna actually join the study. I'm not gonna do it here because I don't want to waste your guys' time. But if you want to contribute to this research that's going to be showing us how much customers are paying, how much drivers are receiving, and how much Uber is taking from both of us, make sure you do the study. It's I will say it's going to ask you to connect to your Uber account. So if you have fears about like security concerns, like if this, for example, they could get hacked and your data is now in the wind, and we're talking about money here, like your accounts and things like that, this could be like a point of access. So be careful. I just want to give that disclaimer before I tell you to do this. I don't want you guys to hold me responsible if they get hacked. But because Lyft is actually my primary income driver, I feel comfortable given like signing into their platform with my Uber account, and I'll do. And they use Uber API. So Uber says, hey, people, you can have access to some of these APIs. We'll make them as safe as possible. So, it's not uncommon, but again, do it at your own risk. We're going to move on to the next story. So Uber welcomes back an affordable feature in Orlando to help users save up to 20% on rides. And we know if customers are the ones saving, drivers are the one paying. Let's check out this video. We'll probably get hit with an ad. Of course we do. And while the ad is going, I'm going to take a look at the comments. Commuter Branchline says, how can anyone run a vehicle for less than $1 per mile? There's some benefits to it. Not the pay itself, but the tax write-off. So rideshare drivers honestly and truly make majority of their money on being like tax-free money, because we're allowed to write off 65 cents per mile. Okay, I'm gonna try to do this as simply as possible. So we're currently allowed to write off 65 cents per mile. If you run your business at 25 cents per mile, that means for every 40 cents you earn, it's gonna be tax-free. So the lower you keep your real expenses, and the government thinks your expenses are at 65 cents, you get to pocket that money as tax-free dollars. That's where rideshare drivers really and truly make their money. But the only way you can benefit from that is by keeping your expenses low. It means not buying a new car. It means buying used cars. It means keeping your expenses as low as possible. And one major mechanical issue can distort that balance. So that's just something you have to keep in mind. All right, so let's watch this video.
Cost to take an Uber to the airport is going up, and Orlando is going to have the most expensive fee in the entire country. Fox 35's Matt Treza is looking into why this is happening.
This is the letter that Uber says it got from the airport about the increased fees. Uber drivers worry they'll lose out if the airport raises the costs.
Okay, so the reason why I wanted to show this video is because as much as, Uber does have their role in taking advantage of drivers and customers, there are some government bodies that don't make it easier for us either. So I want to quickly show you. Let's look at what are the top 10 airport fees for Uber and Lyft drivers in America. Start at number 10. All right. So, I don't know why it's starting. I don't know why this list is like that. Hold on. Let's try that again. Top most expensive airport fees for rideshare. List the 10 most expensive airports. There we go. So the video said that Orlando's this is not what I'm looking for. Show me a list of the most expensive rideshare airport fees. Let's see if that did it. Nope. All right. Well, we're gonna continue with this video. I'm gonna see if I can figure this out.
To be quite honest, especially from where I live to come here.
Uber drivers worry they'll lose out if the airport raises the costs.
It's already high, to be quite honest, especially from where I live to come here. I got my family and everything, so pretty high.
Uber drivers say if the fees are higher, potential passengers may choose other ways to get a ride home from the airport.
It's possible people prefer calling his family to pick up them or take another thing like charter of the airports or to the hotels, and prefer that because it's a high price,
The current pickup fee from MCO is currently $5.80. The airport plans to raise it to $6.30.
That's high. $7 for that's an addition to whatever Uber was charging before. So either Uber's gonna have to pay for this, the customer is probably gonna have to pay for this, or the driver, even if the driver doesn't directly pay for it, if customers are seeing, oh my God, this is expensive, I don't want to pay this, I'm going to try and find another way to get to where I need to go. That's business laws for the rideshare driver, and it's not Uber's fault. It's not the passenger's fault, and it's not their fault. In this specific scenario, it's the airport's fault.
35 cents in August, and then to $7 in October. Uber says it's the highest fee of any airport where they operate.
It is going to have a pretty substantial negative impact on the thousands of people that use Uber every day to either earn as drivers on our platform at the airport or use it to get to and from the airport for their.
All right, so yeah, I agree with that. So this article isn't about the airport fee. It's about Uber's response to the airport fee and what they're going to do to help customers save money, right? Can only be great. So Uber is bringing back a rider favorite. Uber X Share is now available in Orlando starting Thursday. So I think that's this Thursday. This article was written November 16th. What is that? Maybe this came out it came out on a Thursday, so I don't know if it meant that Thursday or whatever. It's happening soon, right? Uber X Share lets riders choose a more affordable option and allows them to save more if they find a co-rider along the route. If you're matched with the rider along the way, you can save up to 20% off the total fare, Uber said. For those who use this feature, Uber said it'll add no more than 8 minutes to your trip on average. That's not bad, but I'm pretty sure something can go wrong. That's not bad for the customer, that is. By helping to match more people in fewer cars faster, we can help cut gas, vehicle miles, and emissions per passenger and make transportation more affordable, the company said. So they had this before, and then they stopped doing it because of COVID, right? So I've never actually picked up multiple passengers in one car. I've never personally done that, and I'm not looking forward to it. And there's a reason for that. Before I show you the reason, this is like Uber's official page. I always check them out just to see what new features they have going out. So let's just see what they're saying about Uber X Share. It's an improved shared trip experience. So apparently it's better than what it was before. With Uber X Share has earnings in mind. This is catered for drivers. Your fare for an Uber X Share trip will be equal to or greater to what you would earn for an equivalent Uber X trip from pickup to drop off of all riders. You'll also earn an additional fare when you pick up a co-rider. UberX Share helps reduce the time you spend without a rider, providing the opportunity to earn more in less time. Discounts to riders do not lower your earnings on UberX Share trips. UberX Share has your time in mind. You have the ability to cancel the pickup and collect the You have the ability to cancel the pickup and collect the cancellation fee if a rider is more than 2 minutes late. 2 minutes late, that's good. I'm okay with the 2 minutes, but if we're talking about 3 people and they all take the maximum 2 minutes, then we're talking about 6 minutes. Still not bad, but I would feel butthurt if I had to stop twice, wait 4 minutes, and cancel. But since they're paying the cancellation fee, that's fine. Whatever. I assume tips are going to go down on these rides. Your driver rating will not be impacted if you receive a negative rating from an UberX Share rider due to pickup, bad route, or co-rider issues. I think I've seen a video where co-riders were beefing and fighting with each other. UberX Share has your comfort in mind. We're limiting trips to no more than 3 co-riders. So that means there's a lot of people out there who don't allow people in the front seat still. So I can't see them shoving 3 people in the back seat going well. It would ideally have to be you, someone in the front, and 2 people in the back. That's what I would do. As always, all riders will be required to uphold Uber's community guidelines. So here's how UberX Share actually works. You'll see a request for UberX Share in the app for your first rider, just like you would with UberX. As always, the ride option is displayed at the top of the offer card, so you'll know it's an UberX Share request. All right, so this is what it's going to look like, UberX Share. So just because it's an UberX Share request doesn't mean it's going to find 2 more people. So you do have to keep that in mind. So it says $14.92, 1 minute away, 25-minute ride. But who knows if this is real? It's probably fake, photoshopped by Uber. Note that you can reject primary UberX Share trip requests without penalty. Okay, this is good. So if you really don't want to do it, you can reject. That's actually that's appreciated. 2, when you accept an UberX Share trip, the driver app will search for ways to pick up more riders along the route. Okay, so it's only after you pick it up it's only after you pick someone up that it starts to look for more rides for you to pick up. You'll be notified if another rider is added to your trip, and your route will update automatically. That's gonna suck, isn't it? There's been a lot of times where I get rides and I'm on the highway and it thinks I'm on the exit and I'm not, and it just messes up the amount of time it would take to go and get that passenger. So co-rider added, it shows you how much extra the fare will be. It shows you how much extra the time will be, and it shows you how much extra the mileage would be. All right, so that's a lot of information to look in a short period of amount of time. Like you have to refocus on the map, figure out where you're going. That is a lot of information, but I'd rather have too much information than not enough information. If a rider doesn't arrive at the pickup location within 2 minutes, important, you'll have the option to cancel and collect the cancellation fee. While we hope you'll enjoy driving with UberX Share, it's always your choice to accept UberX Share trip requests. You will not be penalized for rejecting UberX Share offers. Not yet. Just because this is how it is today doesn't mean that's how it's going to be tomorrow. UberX Share is grouped with UberX in preferences. Ooh, that's a huge L for us. If you do not wish to receive UberX or UberX Share requests, you may opt out of both in preferences. You know what that means? It means you'd have to do food or some higher tier of Uber. I don't have access to the higher tier, so I don't really know what they're called. But if you want to do regular UberX, you have to do UberX Share because it's grouped together. That's a big L. Big L. So Uber Green, UberX, and Share, it's grouped together. Auto accept trip requests. For full fare details. Okay, so the rideshare the rideshare professor put out a video of a driver who got he was on UberX Share rides, and he got all of the drivers to share their screenshots. So we're gonna check out what he has to say about it.
I'm gonna show you 3 riders getting into this driver's car. Right, the first rider,
I'm gonna speed it up,
pays $17.65. Remember, this is the new Uber X Share, where they want you to get 3 people into your car, 3 strangers, right? The second person getting into that car pays $24.91 on his Discover. The third person getting into that car pays $14.82 with Venmo. The rider's name, and thank you so much to the driver that actually showed both sides. He got all 3 riders to agree to take a screenshot and send it to him. This is such valuable information. So in the car, we had the rider called Bill, Kartiki, and Darian, and combined, they paid over $57. What do you think this driver got? Ladies and gentlemen.
Any guesses? Any guesses? It's in the title.
$16. That's 28%. Uber keeping 72%. Let me repeat that. Uber keeps 72%. The driver for taking 3 people almost half an hour, not a long drive, it's only 2-point-something miles. I'll show you the breakdown, right? But the driver gets $16.20-something.
That's wild. That is really unfortunate. So like Uber is like poisoning this as a way for customers to save money, but it's really shaken out to be a way for Uber to take more money from drivers. 72%, like we're like 28% away from being 100. That's a lot of money. It is a lot of money. Banks man says, I'm in Massachusetts and X share are separate category options. Interesting. I wonder how long it'll stay that way. How long have you had access to X and X share? Because I know that it's been rolling out slowly, and this new update might be an update to the update that you just haven't gotten yet. So let me know how long you've had that. I'm not going to play the rest of the video. I'm not a huge fan of like just letting people's videos play. You know, I want them to go get their views. So if you're not subscribed to the Rideshare Professor and you do rideshare, I recommend doing it. I don't agree with everything he says. I don't agree with his tone and his delivery, but this is gold. This is a good example of what we need to be aware of. But let's see what some other drivers are experiencing out there in the wild. So this is Reddit. Reddit is where regular people go to, you know, just pretty much voice their opinions on different things. And this is the Uber driver subreddit. So the title of this is The Secret of Uber Share. And he pretty much just links to the same video I showed you, but I just want to look at the comments, right? So he says, I saw that video earlier. That is messed up. I don't accept shared rides. So this is just one perspective. Another perspective, if I take one, I turn off requests before first pickup. I don't want that many different parties in my car at once. Too much can go wrong. So what this guy is saying is when he accepts a person, he turns off his trip requests, right? So when you turn off your trip requests, you're not going to get any more trip requests. So you can accept the first leg of an Uber X share ride and then just turn it off. And I think that is a really good way to approach it, since one, Uber is forcing you to take these if you don't want to take regular Uber X. So I think this is a good alternative, and we know you're not going to get penalized for it. So this other guy says, then they're going to discount your fare a little bit less than what you saw on upfront fare amount. I don't know if this is true. I'd have to like do it myself. He doesn't say like, this is what happened to me, and maybe I should ask him, did this happen to you? He's probably not going to reply today, but follow me on Reddit and see what I get into. So this is another perspective. This guy, he's a little unhinged. He's making scenarios up in his head, but the responses to the scenarios are really what's important. But I'll read what he wrote. Do y'all think shared rides will backfire on Uber? Why or why not? Here's my take. What will happen when you pick up someone that has 2 or 3 kids with them and you have to pick up 1 to 2 other passengers? One of which might have a bunch of groceries and the other has to go to the airport and is in a hurry because their genius selves decided to call for a ride 30 minutes before their flight. It happens. It does happen. It really does. We don't have shared in our city yet, but based on where I drive, I'm predicting a lot of headaches. So there's 7 comments to this. Let's go through them. First one is Uber Share is for 1 person at a time. If you get there and there's more than 1 person, cancel and tell them to order Uber X. But the best remedy is to never accept an Uber Share ride to begin with. I don't think this is the best remedy. The best remedy is what I just told you guys. Accept the ride. Turn off your ride request right after you accept the first leg of that ride. I think that's very, very solid information. The next comment, we haven't gotten Uber X shared in our city, but I read there's no option to opt out of that, right? We just discovered that. That is true. There is no option. I mean, you can opt out of it, but it means either having a car that lets you take more expensive rides or doing food. So regular, you won't be able to split the two. You can't opt out, but you can decline that ride. That's a good response. Wine again, take it or leave it. I don't like that take. Very weak, and we're not even gonna look at that one. This is a scam. Shared rides are for 1 passenger per pickup, but I would never accept shared rides. So we need to hope, right? If it's only for 1 person, which I think that's how Uber will sell it, that doesn't mean customers won't try to use it for more than 1 person. You see what I'm saying? Like customers aren't always the smartest in the bunch, and sometimes they think they're too smart and they try to take advantage of the system. All right, so I'm gonna look at the comments. Real Talk Christina says that's not good, so that would be considered stealing or them just changing the amount. I wouldn't consider it stealing. Well, so we would have to have like a more in-depth analysis. We would have to look at how much that passenger would have paid if they didn't use Uber X Share. And then we would have had to also look at how much the driver would have gotten paid if it wasn't from Uber X Share. And then we have to compare those numbers to what it looks like on Uber X Share in consideration. Like here, what I'm really getting at is it's going to be too difficult to determine, like, is this fair or is this not fair? Like, you'll only be able to see what they put in front of you. You won't be able to see what it would have regularly cost. Like, you'd have to do a lot of digging in order to decide that I'm getting shafted. But we already know that they're getting shafted. So Ron says, I can't stand that guy. He and I got into a heated debate over driver ethics. He's talking about the rideshare professor, Mike. And again, I don't like how he talks about certain things. I think that he needs to be more honest. Like, for example, last week when Uber put out a bunch of really good security updates, they didn't address pay, but they put up some really good security updates that he's been hounding on them to like change, like verified riders. That's something that he has gone to bat with and has really been trying very hard to get these companies to implement. And then once they implemented it, I try not to curse here, but he really did try to shit on them. And then not only did he try to shit on Uber, he tried to kind of like shit on what's that channel called? Oh man, I gotta go to YouTube for this now. We're getting to some YouTube drama. What is their channel? Show Me the Money. The rideshare guy. So Sergio, this guy, I'll just click on the video. Yeah, so Sergio, I guess he's to me, he's the leader of this channel. There's a bunch of different personalities here. So this is Sergio. He went to the Uber event and he took pictures with the Uber. Sergio and Dara picture. Let's see if we can find it. Okay, I got you guys. I'm just gonna go to the video that the rideshare professor did. Rideshare professor. Can't be too old. Okay, we need to go back some more. He puts out a lot of content, I will say that, but you know, the quality, it's what it is. I'm not gonna knock it. Here he is. He really tears into Sergio for no reason. No real reason.
Simultaneously, same day. I want to run 2 pictures by you today, simultaneously, same day, through the Rideshare Guy channel. Sergio with Dara Khosrowshahi.
That's the Uber CEO.
Get a rundown of Sergio's meeting with Dara and the Uber team during tomorrow's live episode of Show Me the Money, right? And I want to say emphasis here on Show Me the Money, right? Because if I had to meet with these people, it's only under the conditions that they've actually shown us the money, right? I think that should be the numero uno, the number one cause for actually sitting down or meeting with someone like this. After you get consensus, after you get agreement that drivers get paid better, right? That the terms of earnings are met, right? That should be priority number one, no matter how powerful or how influential your channel is. And there I go to picture number 2. Harry with Tony Zhu. Now, Tony Zhu to me is straight up.
These guys, I think that's DoorDash CEO. I don't know who Harry is. But, you know, he was kind of digging in Sergio, and it was like, it really wasn't necessary. Really wasn't necessary. Banksman says, about 2 weeks and I'm up to date on my Uber app. So it's not a matter of being up to date on your Uber app. It's a matter of if they rolled it out to your market. I will say, if you've had it for 2 weeks, it does sound fresh, and it might be something that, you know, in Massachusetts, that's just what you guys have. I know you guys, your driver union up there is becoming very, very strong, and I am paying attention to it. I'm paying attention to how it impacts drivers up there. Ron says, rideshare feature is not available in smaller markets like Charleston. So yeah, it's not currently available in Charleston. I don't know if it ever was available in Charleston before, but I know that they might test things in bigger markets and they might bring it to Charleston. Though I can understand why they might not bring it to Charleston. I guess it's based off of the supply and demand of the city. Hey, do we have enough drivers to pick up enough passengers, or are prices getting, crazy? Like in Orlando, they've implemented in Orlando because of that new airport fee. So it does seem to be like something to do in response to other situations. So we'll see. We'll see if it comes or not to Charleston. Banks says some riders order shared rides in hopes other passengers will not be added to the trip and they still arrive on time and save a couple bucks. Yeah, I expect that too. That I think if it ever happens here, or if I ever go to a city where it exists, I'm just gonna take a day, order a bunch of them, have my camera rolling, and just like interview everyone as they come in and like make a video for you guys. Mike says in response to who the rideshare professor is, I see he is supportive of driver rights and pay. Yeah, he is super supportive of driver rights and pay, and he does fight hard. So like, I will give him that. And he's very consistent. He's an advocate. I don't see anything unethical about what he says. Hard to understand what motivates him to keep making these videos year after year. I don't know about the motivation, but he sometimes helping too much takes away. Like he's always telling like drivers to boycott and on like really busy days. And I've never been a fan of that, right? If you want to boycott, sure. I don't think Uber and Lyft is a great long-term solution to anything. So my goal with my subscribers and the people who follow me, I want them to take advantage of Uber and Lyft as much as possible and make their money, pay off their debt, and find a way to transition. Use Uber and Lyft as a stepping stone to something greater. And missing out on days that pay really, really well is just not something I advocate for, right? But I'm also not upset with other people who don't agree with me. The rideshare driver will like make it feel like it's your fault if you turn your car key on and you go drive and you don't have to. So it's like it's some of it's in the delivery, right? We all like want the best for people, but we all don't think what the best thing is for people like in a similar fashion. It's like we all have like variations to what we think is the correct solution. We all want a solution, but we all have different ideas about what that solution should look like. So if you listen to him long enough, you'll see what I'm talking about. But generally speaking, I'm subscribed, right? I recommend subscribing. I've made a video where I kind of called him out before over that, and he's responded to it very well, very nice. But I like agree with him like 85% of the time, and the other 15%, I think this comes down to delivery. Ron says, I warn my riders not to get into cars if someone in addition to the drivers in the car in Charleston area. That's fair. I've seen people drive around with their boyfriends, and I just assume they don't last long on the platform. Ron says, my opinion is if you have an issue with Uber Lyft as a driver, you should never invite rider into your drama with the company. That's fair. That is fair. All right, so we're going to move. First, I'm going to figure out where I left off. Let's close off some of these tabs. We trust that. We did this. We did that. All right, so what were we at? Okay, so this is something DC taxis can now pick up your rider. Read that wrong. DC taxis can now pick up your Uber ride. So this has been happening in a few cities, and I'll tell you what cities this is happening in. But as of November 17th, when this article was written, this can now happen in DC. And I know most of us might not even live there, but it's important to watch what's happening in these bigger cities because it is trickle down economics when it comes to Uber. They test things in big markets, and then eventually it just comes everywhere. If you request an Uber X this weekend, a DC cab might just show up. Uber announced a partnership Friday that would give DC cab drivers access to Uber trip referrals. Riders who request an Uber X will be notified if they are getting a taxi and will pay Uber X rate. So it's virtually no difference for the passenger except a taxi cab. Riders will continue to have the option to specifically request a cab, in which case they will get a fare range based on the taxi meter. So apparently, I just realized you could order a taxi through the Uber app in certain cities, but you would get taxi fare prices, right? So it was a good distinction. Taxi fare is usually more expensive than what they would pay an Uber driver. But with what's specifically happening here, a taxi you can either choose specifically a taxi with taxi rates, or you can just order a car and maybe a taxi will show up. So it's better for the customer, better for Uber. It's pretty much the same. They'd have to also pay out less surges because they have more availability of cars. This is worse for regular rideshare drivers. It's worse, right? It's a long ad. So like Uber drivers, cab drivers would be able to see upfront fares determined in part by expected distance, traffic, and demand before deciding whether to accept a ride. The rideshare company did not immediately confirm what percentage of the fee a rider pays confirm what percentage of the fee a rider pays goes to the drivers. I don't know, some wrong grammar in there. I mean, like, this is nothing new. We just did a whole section about how they're hiding the percentage from us. The partnership is expected to be a source of additional revenue for cab drivers. Similar programs have also launched in New York, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. Uber says that from April through June of this year, taxi drivers who participated in the San Francisco program earned 23.8% more than drivers who did not participate. So here's what I'm hearing. If you're a rideshare driver and you want to make 23.8% more, go become a taxi driver in DC or New York or San Francisco or Los Angeles. Uber has described the partnership as a win-win strategy that would help people get rides faster. So when it comes to rideshare, there are three parties that need to be considered: the company, Uber Lyft, the passenger, and the driver. So when he says it's a win-win, he's leaving someone else out, which is us, the drivers. Recently, the company has been grappling with a driver shortage fueled by the COVID-19 pandemic and reduced benefits for drivers that has led to higher prices and longer wait times. Geez, sounds like if you solve these issues, you would have more drivers. Since launching in DC more than a decade ago, the rideshare company has come to dominate. All right, this just sounds like filler words. Yeah, they're just trying to get some length out of their article. So I kind of want to let's do some random searches here. Let's say, how has Uber impacted the taxi industry? Impacted. Uber's entry into the taxi industry has a profound and disruptive impact on it. All right. 1. Increased competition and price disruption. Uber's introduction of a smartphone app that connects riders with the nearby drivers has made it significantly easier and more convenient to hail a ride, leading to increased competition for traditional taxis. This has driven down fares in many cities, putting pressure on taxi companies to lower their own prices or risk losing customers. Taxi companies can fix that by just doing the same. Well, I guess, if you can't beat them, you join them, which is what they're doing. Changing consumer expectations, Uber set a new standard for convenience, transparency, and customer service in the taxi industry. Riders have come to expect features such as real-time tracking, driver ratings, and upfront pricing. All right. Decline in taxi ridership as Uber's popularity has grown. Show me some stats on how Uber destroyed taxis. Okay, the decline in taxi ridership. Between 2012 and 2019, the number of taxi trips in the United States declined by 40%. That's pretty significant. This decline is largely attributed to the growth of ride-hailing services like Uber and Lyft. And this is before the pandemic. Decreasing taxi medallion values. Now, this was insane. I think in New York City, a medallion was like $500K. I never verified that. I just heard that as a kid and I never looked into it. The value of taxi medallions, which are licensed to operate a taxi in certain cities, has plummeted since Uber's inception. In New York City, for example, the value of a taxi medallion fell from $1 million, double what I was told, in 2013 to around $100,000 in 2019. This is a scam. They used to have to pay $1 million just to be a taxi driver. How long does it take you to make $1 million as a taxi driver? Bro, come on. That's a scam. Increase in Uber and Lyft ridership. In contrast to the decline in taxi riders, the number of Uber and Lyft trips has skyrocketed. In 2021, Uber and Lyft combined to provide over 1.5 billion rides. All right, we're not going to go through any more of that. It's getting too taxi-based, and we're rideshare. But I can understand now a little more why taxi companies are now, doing deals with Uber to fill in the gap that they think we're leaving out. All right, so before we cover this next story, we'll jump in the comments. Mike says if any of you have access to Solo paid account, you can share what it looks like in San Diego. I would really appreciate it. I've never seen it shown by Tristan or mentioned as a high earner city. I do have access to an account, but today is Monday, so you know how the week starts like Sunday night into Monday. It's only going to show what they made today. So what I will do is I will set a calendar event for next week Sunday, which is the end of the week. I will go to where San Diego, and then I will take a screenshot and I'll put it on my next podcast. So if you show up at my next podcast, I will do one next week Monday. I will show you what earnings are making, and I'll do some comparisons. I'll pull some East Coast cities. I'll pull some like cities that aren't doing well at all. I want to be fair, so we'll do that consideration next week. Panama 310 says, "What is Solo paid account?" So Solo shows you how much money other drivers are making in different markets. I don't have my phone with me. I put out a new video today. Pretty much how I exposed a $3,000 Lyft Uber driver. In that video, in the description, there is an affiliate link to the Solo app. If you use that, you can see what other drivers are making in your specific market, and you can also look around at other markets to see what drivers are making. So go check that out. At the end of this video, it will automatically send you to my new video that I just put out today. So you'll see what the Solo app is. I strongly recommend it. I don't have an official partnership with them. Like, anyone can use the affiliate system. Like, if you have a friend that is also a rideshare driver and you give them the link, you make like $15 from it. It's nothing crazy. But it is a very helpful tool in determining whether your market is the problem or if you are the problem. I super recommend it. No problem, Mike. Ron says, "Is Crown Victoria cars still on the ban list of auto for drivers to use?" I don't know anything about that. Do I want to dive into that? Crown Victoria banned rideshare? I've never heard. Oh, Crown Vic. I didn't even know Vic was short for Victoria. I know about the Crown Vics. I'm going to assume it's because it used to be a police car. This is interesting. So this is 4 years ago. It's literally the best thing if you're getting picked up by an Uber X. They're so big compared to what is normally an Uber X. Okay. Let's throw this in my AI assistant. Why can't rideshare drivers use a Crown Vic? Rideshare drivers cannot use Crown Vic because Uber and Lyft have banned it from their platforms. Thanks. The reason for this ban is that the Crown Vics are often associated with taxis, and Uber and Lyft want to differentiate themselves from traditional taxi companies. Okay, so if they had said something about police, I would have understood, but this is a worse explanation. Additionally, Crown Vics are known for their poor fuel economy and emissions, which is not in line with Uber's, Lyft, and commitment to sustainability. Sure, but there's cars that are worse. That's not a good explanation. The ban on Crown Vics has been met with mixed reactions from drivers. I have mixed reactions. Some drivers support the ban, arguing that it will help to improve the image of Uber and Lyft. Who cares? Others oppose the ban, arguing that Crown Vics are reliable and affordable vehicles that are well suited for rideshare driving. Ultimately, the decision of whether or not to allow Crown Vics on their platform is up to Uber and Lyft. Here are some of the specific reasons why Uber and Lyft have banned the Crown Vics. Crown Vics are often associated with taxis. We just went through that. Crown Vics poor fuel economy. We just went through that. Crown Vics are not as comfortable or stylish as newer cars. There's cars on the platform that aren't these things. Despite these concerns, some drivers believe the Crown Vic are still a good option for rideshare driving. They argue that the Crown Vics are reliable and affordable vehicles that are well suited for long hours. For those who don't know what the Crown Vic looks like, let's pull up some pictures. So, not like you've seen these. These are iconic. These are old police cars, and they were taxi cabs for a while. Like when I was growing up in New York City, these were the main like taxi cabs. Come on, I didn't want to do all of that. I didn't want all of that. I just want to zoom in. It's being complicated. So I'm sure you've seen it. Old movie. Here are the taxi cabs that they have in New York City now. I think they use Priuses. Yeah, so if their excuse is that, you know, it's bad for their image, then you got to kick Prius off, which they shouldn't do. Prius is like, in my opinion, the best car for rideshare. Panama says yes. Medallions used to be expensive. I thought it was 500K, and even then, I never like. I thought that was like, okay, that's outlandish, but a million, man, that's insane. Ford Explorer are the most police vehicle options in Denver. Yeah. All right, let's move forward. That was I like that, Ron. That was a good tangent. I didn't know that. I learned something new today. All right, so I like this, right? So we covered about all the ways that Uber and Lyft are like kind of shafting us today, and I want to give you guys some hope. I want to encourage you guys to figure out how to do this legally. I don't know, whatever. We'll dive in and we'll talk more. How a Florida driver fed up with Uber and Lyft created her own shuttle service so she could make more money and work fewer hours. Now, this webpage, it's very like blocked off, so I'm going to use this app I hear called Reader Mode. Makes it a little easier to read. And we'll zoom in. So a Gen Xer ride hailing driver said she's been making more per day with her freelance shuttle business. Okay, so my first concern is I don't really know how old a Gen Xer is. How old is a Gen Xer? I don't know why they're... This has been very common for people to label based off a generation. As of today, today's not October 4th, but 2023, it's fine. Generation Xers are between 43 and 58 years old. Okay, thank you. Just say that. She works few hours and pulls in $50 a ride by finding clients on Facebook and word of mouth. This comes after months of struggling to even earn $100 a day in 8 hours for Uber and Lyft. If I could earn $100 a day after 8 hours, I'd be really upset. On a really, really, really bad day, like if I don't have $100 after 5 hours, I'm going home. Sherry, 58, okay, now they tell us her age, was driving upwards of 75 hours a week for Uber and Lyft, struggling to pull in $200 a day. That's rough. That is rough. Let's do some math on that. 200 times 7 is 14, 1,400. 1,400 divided by 75 hours per week. Sherry is averaging that's not funny, Tristan. Sherry is averaging $18 an hour. It's not good. The Florida driver said that when she started 6 years ago, she was easily earning that much. The Florida driver said that when she started 6 years ago, she was easily earning that much working 6 to 8 hours, but has struggled to reach that goal more recently. If you make all your drivers mad, you're not going to have any left, said Sherry, who asked to just use her first name for fear of professional repercussions. The more people that I talk, she's probably doing this illegally, right? Sometimes you need, if you want to pick up people, you need like a business like there's ways to do it legally. You just have to pay some fees to get it done. And I've contemplated doing it, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to deal with the hassle. The more people I talk to, they don't want to do it anymore, and they're trying to find other things to do on their own so they don't have to drive. Now she's trying something different. She launched a shuttle service that she advertises on Facebook and through word of mouth. She charges $50 to take people to and from the cruise terminal near her home, and she now works fewer hours and spends more time with family. So this is kind of where I want to push all of you, right? Anyone who's watching, I want you to use Uber and Lyft as a stepping stone into something better. For me, it's YouTube, right? I used to be a district manager and I quit during the pandemic, and I've been trying to get out of debt, and I've been using Uber and Lyft as that mechanism to get out of debt. And I should be debt free next summer. And once I'm debt free, I already make enough money on YouTube to cover my expenses. So I'm using Uber and Lyft as a stepping stone into something else. And I'm going to keep documenting that on my channel. All right. So before we move to the next story, I'm going to go to the chat. I see the Driven Dad is in here. You guys need to check him out. He has a huge family. I don't know how he does it. I don't have any kids yet, but when I do, I'm going to be paying close attention to how he handles his stuff, because he's out there grinding with a family that is currently always expanding. And congratulations on your latest newborn. Mike says, Panama, you don't have to pay to see what drivers earn. Yeah, you don't have to pay. I'll show you next week. I don't want to get up and get my phone. It's in a different room, but I'll go through it next week. How about that? I'll create a segment where we go through the Solo app and we just check out what other drivers are making. So Driven Dad says, "What's up? Just chilling. We here. Holiday Inn. Ford Explorer are the most police figures in Denver. Prius is definitely the most taxi cabs in Denver." Joey asks, "What you think is the best car for rideshare?" I think so. This is theory, right? I have to prove my theories, so I wanna really say this is just a theory. I think it's the Prius. The Prius 5, if you can find them, they're wider. They have a little more space, a little more trunk space. I think that electric cars, they don't have the range that would make me comfortable. I don't like having to stop multiple times per day, even though it is a short stop. I don't want to have to deal with range anxiety. Sometimes I do take long rides, and I just think that Prius, one, being made by Toyota, you can squeeze 300,000 miles out of them. Eventually, you will have to replace the battery, and it can cost like $6,000. Let's look. How much to replace Prius battery? All right, so generally you'd be looking at 2,400 to 2,700 for a new Prius. Used Prius, and you can get a used Prius for a really good price. First of all, before you even look at the used Prius, I want to show you guys how sexy the 2023 Prius looks. Oh my god! If I 2024, if I wasn't trying to be better with my finances, I would run down to the dealership and pick up one of these bad boys. Oh my god, this is too much. Look how nice that looks. I'm looking forward to where I can buy one of these used in the future. But you can get a used Prius for like 10 grand. Let's just I don't want to look at Carvana. I don't support Carvana. Let's go somewhere else. Let's do CarMax. Still, let me hold on. I'm gonna go to my Facebook. I don't want to dox myself. So I'm gonna do this off screen. Buying cars independently is always cheaper than going through a service provider like CarMax or whatever. So I'm going to show you what Priuses will go for in my market. Now this is actually for Nashville, Tennessee, so that's fine. I'll keep it on Nashville. Let's put max 15,000. I'm a cash guy. If the next time I buy a car, I'm going to be doing it with cash, and I'm slowly saving up to do that. All right, so here we go. So this has 179,000 miles. You can probably squeeze another 100 grand out of it, 100,000 miles out of it. But if you're just patient and you're always looking for good deals, you'll find some. This is 20. There's probably something wrong with this, but I am curious about looking at it. This is a 2018 Toyota Prius Prime, 2,500. So that's probably just for the down payment. This looks like it to be a dealership. So you do have to do some like due diligence. You do have to look into it. Let's see. This isn't bad. The mileage is so high, but it is a 2012. This isn't too bad either. As long as there's nothing like major issues with it. This is the Prius C. You can't use the Prius C on the platform. It's too small. This is good. So 15 grand, 80,000 miles driven. It's a 2017, so it's not that old. Looks well kept. Comes with backup cameras, park assist, runs great, drives great, no issues, clean interior. You want to make sure it has a clean title because you can't use rebuilt titles on the platform. See, this one comes with the salvage title. So you do have to like do some digging and do some diligence into it, but I do think you can get a used Prius that will do pretty well. You have a lot of drivers going out there and getting brand new cars, and I'm just not on that wave. I think that even if you get a car that's like 2 years old, like my car was used. I got very lucky on my car. I paid 13 grand for it. I got it with 500 miles, and it was a 2017 Jetta. Super lucky. I'm not even gonna lie. I was super lucky on that. That's not average. But let's continue. I'm getting a little sidetracked here. But before we continue, I'm gonna read the comments. Ron says he drives a 2021 Sentra base model and gets 35 miles per gallon. That's pretty good. My Jetta, it is base model, and I don't know what it gets per mile. It's probably not that. It's probably like maybe 28 to 30, but it's good enough. It's good enough. It's not the car I picked for rideshare, it's just the car I had, which is most of our cases. The Driven Dad said I quit being a district manager to get debt free. Nice. Thanks for the shout out. Yeah, I like that. I'm on the Dave Ramsey path, man. I'm all about lowering my expenses if it allows me to live a life that I want to live. Banksman says the driven dad, same in Massachusetts, police and state troopers here use Ford Explorers and some undercover Ford Fusions. I've seen some police cars with Ford Fusions. Driven dad says I like the Model Y for exiting Uber and Lyft in Denver. I don't know if I'm reading that correctly. Because people love it and would pay me if I had my own company. So that's the next step. Do it, man. I support that. Mike says, thank you. I can't wait. It would also be interesting to know why drivers say they earn more per mile in San Francisco. I can't find any literature that proves this. I'll look it up, but take this with a grain of salt. I also do have a you know what? Let's do this. Let's go to my YouTube channel. We can do a quick watch of a video that explains Solo. So this is it. It's 2 minutes, 28 seconds. We'll speed through it.
I've been using an app called Solo that tells me exactly how much money other drivers are making in different markets. This is important because it can help you determine if you're in a bad market or if you're just using bad strategy. Here's an example. This is the rideshare hustler named Dennis. I asked Dennis,
how much do you think gig workers in LA can average per day?
And here's what he had to say.
With what I know and what I do, about $200.
However, when I checked the Solo app, I saw that the top driver in LA was making double the amount that Dennis thought was possible. This showed me that Dennis was using bad strategy and not that the LA market was bad itself. Now, Dennis is an extreme.
So that's pretty much it. You guys can go check it out like later or something. So it's just, you know, quick rundown of how it shows it. And I'll do more in depth of like how to find these things, because that seems to be what people really need to know. But let's move forward to the next story. Okay, so this is just an update from Lyft. It's like a quality of life update. It says the latest app update added the ability to check how many hours we've been working and how many are left before the required break. In my opinion, decent quality of life update between all added features. And my favorite comment, finally Lyft does something that's not anti driver. So here it is. This, I believe it's at the bottom of your like activity page. And you can, the driving time limit. So you can check how much time you have. This is important because someone like me, I've worked 11 hours and 59 minutes, went offline, and then got online a minute too early. And if you get online a minute too early, you have to wait 6 hours. It'll kick you off after a minute. And you have to wait 6 hours before you can drive again. So now that I don't have to like mentally track how much time I have left, or how much time I have to like stay off the app, I can just go here, check, and be certain. And I like, it's a good update. I like it. There's no negatives to it. Driven Dad says, Tristan, definitely cash car is the way, is why I'm renting my car since I need such a big budget for the fam and killing debt. Man, I would love to see like a budget breakdown for your household. And you're in Colorado? I know it's not cheap up there. Okay, so I want to kind of take a minute or two from this video where I break down how to drive 18 hours in one day. I'm not telling you to drive 18 hours in one day. I'm just teaching you that one, it's possible and how you do it. And this is the best explanation I've made on the topic.
So this is actually one of the advanced tips. The rideshare day starts at 5 a.m. So if you wake up at 5 a.m., drive for 12 hours from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m., Lyft will kick you off the platform. Now, what a lot of people don't know is that the break only has to be for 6 hours. So once you take a break from 5 p.m. till 11 p.m., you're able to drive from 11 p.m. until 4:59 a.m., which will result in 18 hours. Now,
yeah, so, pretty straightforward explanation. I get a lot of flack for this, like, oh, it's unhealthy to do that, this, that. Listen, if your kid is in the hospital, you need some money real quick, or you're behind on bills, you're about to get kicked out, I want you to have the ability to do something crazy and make money. Whatever. I'm going to teach you how to do it. I don't do it every day. Every now and then I do it, But yeah, so that's why I find that new feature, the drive time limits, it's a nice quality of life improvement. And so this is another feature which I thought more people would be aware of this because it's one of the biggest pain points for drivers. But Lyft now allows you to turn off ride switching. So ride switching was where you'd be on a ride and then they would automatically put you on a different ride that they thought was better for you. But sometimes it's not. Most of the times for me, I'm okay with it. I leave the feature on. But if you drive for Lyft, you can now turn it off. Where's the screenshot? Okay, this isn't it. This isn't it either. Here we go. So if you go into your settings and your driver preferences, there's something called ride switches. After you accept the ride, you may be switched to a different ride. You can turn it off or turn it on. By default, it is still left on. This came out like maybe 2 weeks ago. I didn't even really cover it. I thought that everyone would, but no one really did. Has anybody used this? Does it lock you into the ride or just take the ride away rather than give you a new one? See what the comments say. Not an option in Portland, neither in Toronto. So it might not be available in your city, but go check it out and see if you have access to it yet. It used to just randomly switch you. Now I think it gives you the option to switch or not. I don't think that's the case. I'm pretty sure it just doesn't make you switch. I don't think it's an option. I was curious on if it just took the rides away if somebody was closer. Again, it used to. Now I think it's a new one comes that you are a lot closer to, then it gives you the option. I don't think that's the case, but also I haven't really been driving to know. So I'm going to have to go and confirm this. If anyone knows and they've tried and they have it turned off, I'm pretty sure it doesn't work that way. Driven Dad says strategy is definitely king considering you're in a major metro market. I don't consider my market to be major. It's bigger than small town, but it's not Miami. It's not New York City. It's not LA. It's not Atlanta. Atlanta actually overshadows Charleston. I think Charlotte and Charleston might be around the same. I don't think I would say like upper middle class market, like upper, it's like it could be big, but it's not, So like population of Charleston. That's the population of Charleston, 150,000. And Atlanta would be the closest big city. It's gonna be in the millions. It's not in the millions. This must be like Atlanta proper. Atlanta and surrounding areas. So 6.1 million people in Atlanta and surrounding. Population of Charleston and surrounding. So still less than a million. So, we do okay. We have a good amount of tourists. I think what I really would have liked to try is live somewhere where it snows, like Colorado, because I know you must get crazy bonuses when it snows. Okay, so let's move forward. We only have a couple more stories left. So last week I reported on how New York City just had like the best thing happen to them as if you're a rideshare driver. And so this breaks down the settlement that both Uber and Lyft had to do with the rideshare drivers. So Uber and Lyft wage theft settlement explained. Excuse me. Following a New York State investigation on wage theft on November 2nd this year, Uber and Lyft agreed to a settlement. Uber and Lyft agreed to a settlement that would pay out drivers $328 million to settle wage theft allegations in New York State. For Lyft drivers, the Office of the New York State Attorney General negotiated a settlement with Lyft that creates a $38 million settlement fund. You may be eligible for payments if you drove for Lyft between October 11th, 2015 and July 31st, 2017, and had deductions taken for New York sales tax and black car fund fees. So New York passed a law. They're supposed to, there's some tax and fees involved, but Uber and Lyft were supposed to pass these expenses on to the customer, not to the driver, or absorb it themselves. I don't remember, but it wasn't supposed to be to the driver. So Lyft must provide drivers with new benefits like sick leave, it's really good, payment, training, and job support. These benefits are expected to begin no later than February 29, 2024. Drivers will be able to access these benefits through the Lyft driver app. I hope this comes to everyone. I don't think it will. I'm gonna break it down. I want you to understand how important this is and how big it is. Break down the results of New York lawsuit against Uber and Lyft. I'm gonna ignore my typos. In 2023 November, Uber and Lyft agreed to pay a combined $328. We just read that. Here's a breakdown of key results. Uber will pay sorry, that's not what we need. All right. Changes to what is it? Changes to vacation pay and what else was it? Vacation pay and minimum pay for Uber, Lyft drivers, NYC. So just in case you missed it last week, paid sick leave, drivers can earn up to 56 hours of paid sick leave per year with Uber and Lyft now in New York City. Personal time off, drivers can request unpaid time off, but the company is not required to grant it. This is interesting. Short-term disability, drivers may be eligible for short-term disability benefits if they're unable to work due to a non-work related illness. And if you get fired, you also get unemployment now. It's not here, but I remember reading about it. And the changes to minimum pay. In November 2023, Uber and Lyft agreed to pay drivers a minimum hourly rate of $26 as long as someone is in their car or they are on the way to pick someone up. The minimum rate is adjusted annually for inflation. That's huge. The minimum rate applies to all time spent engaged with the app, which includes time spent waiting for requests. So more than what I just said, driving to pick up passengers and driving passengers to their destination. So it's a pretty huge lawsuit that they lost out on. So for Uber drivers, the Office of New York State Attorney negotiated a settlement with Uber that creates $290 million settlement fund. Drivers may be eligible for payments if they drove Uber between November 10th, 2014 and May 22nd, 2017, and had deductions taken for New York sales tax and black car fund fees. Uber will be required to provide drivers with new benefits like sick leave, payment, training, and job support. Drivers will also be notified how much a rider has paid after each ride. That's huge, right? We just spent the whole first half of this video talking about how they're intentionally hiding that information from drivers. But we don't know if this is going to be like nationwide or if they're just going to only make this in New York City because of the lawsuit that they had to fight. These benefits are expected to begin no later than February 29, 2024. I can't wait. I already have it in my calendar because I need to see how these things are implemented. Drivers will be able to access these benefits through the Uber app. So there's more about the settlement. Both Uber and Lyft will be required to pay drivers for up to 1 hour that it takes spend viewing and completing training materials. Drivers will be paid the higher of the following: $15 per hour or the lowest minimum wage rate. So if you have to watch any like training videos, Uber is now required to pay you for it, which is fair. It's what it is. That's all I got. How do I appeal deactivations with Uber and Lyft? So if you guys saw the news last week where, Uber is now changing how they're handling deactivations, it's because of this lawsuit. This lawsuit is what inspired them to have to change their policy. Both companies will provide in-app chat support for drivers in English, Spanish, Chinese, and other languages so they can easily ask questions about their earnings or other work conditions. In addition, drivers will now be able to appeal all deactivations directly from Uber and Lyft platforms. The details are currently being ironed out. Can't wait to see what those details look like. How do I get my money from Uber or Lyft if you are in New York City? This is only for people in New York City. The settlement is administered by an outside company, Russ Consulting. Drivers can contact Russ Consulting if they have questions regarding the process of driver payments or settlement specifics. If you're a Lyft driver, you can reach them at 1-800-433-5314 or info@lyftnyagsettlement.com. If you're an Uber driver, you can reach them at 1-800-625-2332 or info@ubernyagsettlement.com. Do Uber Eats drivers get money from the settlement? No. Short and sweet. I like it. How much is the Uber Lyft lawsuit payout? How much is that per person? Overall, the amount is $328 million. Each driver's payout would be determined by the number of hours and days they worked. Man, if I was a driver in New York City and I was doing what I was doing now, they would owe me a lot of money. Who is eligible for the payout? If you completed at least one trip using the Lyft app between October 11th, 2015 and July 31st, 2017, you may qualify. Also, if you completed at least one trip using the Uber app between November 10, 2014 through May 22nd, 2017, you may qualify. The Attorney General is still working with Lyft and Uber to create a more detailed list of drivers who may qualify. Drivers will be able to file a claim online beginning no later than February 29, 2024. Beginning no later, okay? The settlement fund should be fully funded by November 25, so it's going to take a while for everyone to get their money. Distributions will be made through like I just said. What was happening with the deactivations? Why did that happen? That's a good question. I don't even know the answer to this. Under the current guidelines at Uber and Lyft, a driver could be deactivated for a variety of reasons, such as vehicle issues, failed background checks, fraud, discrimination, harassment. This was me. I got accused of harassment and they deactivated me. If I didn't have a dash cam, I'd be kicked off. Or poor ratings. Uber states that when possible, they will alert a driver if they are at risk of deactivation. However, drivers claim the company often deactivates accounts without prior warning, something Uber has admitted in the past. This is exactly what happened. Like it was an unfortunate time. I like it was within the last 5 rides I had before going to Vegas. I got deactivated while I was in Vegas, and I every time I finish driving, I take my dash cam footage and I upload it to my hard drive. And I had to have a friend come to my house, upload the footage to my Google Drive so that I can like find the footage and give it to Lyft so I can get my account back by the time I got back home from Vegas. Like I was in Vegas, I had my budget for the vacation, and I had to like be careful how much money I was spending. I have, you know what? We can watch a clip of it. I have a clip of it. It's one of my older ones. This one.
The reason I got banned by Lyft is so bad that I couldn't even put it in the title of this video. So I actually got banned for 2 reasons. The first reason is because someone accused me of harassment of the more intimate nature. And then the second reason is because that same person accused me of locking them in my car, preventing them from getting out. And while there might be some truth to that, the only way to know for sure is to go through the dash cam footage. I'm gonna do it with you so that you can determine whether or not you think this accusation is accurate. So if you missed the last,
that's the intro. I go through each dash cam footage so you guys can like have your own determination. So that you guys can determine like the validity of it. So now let's finish with this. Once deactivated, drivers can directly plead their case with either Lyft or Uber, but without an independent third party or legal representation, many drivers say they don't stand a chance of winning their jobs back. You know, that's without a dash cam, that's how it goes. I'm gonna check the comments before we move on to the next story. Jerry Creed asks, how much have you made in 18 hours on average? I know, even on a slow day, if I work 18 hours, I'm walking away with $500. The most I've made in one day was like $800, but part of that was like a referral. The most I've made without a referral was about $700 in one day. But I mean, it's not like I do 18 hours every day. I'll do it on the busiest day, like on a Saturday, and I'll just kill it. You know, I'll sleep, make sure I get a full night's rest. I'll wake up at like 4:30. The day for me in Charleston starts at 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll drive from 5 a.m. to either 11 a.m. or from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. But I like to do 5 a.m. to 11 a.m. because it gets a little slow. And then I take the 6-hour break, which puts me back at on the road at 5 p.m. And then another 12-hour shift from there is until 5 a.m. Now it does help. I have a great wife. She makes food for me. I don't have to worry about that. I pretty much just come home, eat, go to sleep, and back out there and I'm grinding again. Go Gig says it. I'm loving the new ride switching option in Massachusetts. I have it off. The Driven Dad says Uber is so shady with their AI. Last weekend, they left me 4 rides short of 80 trips for $525 bonus. The bonuses here in Charleston suck for Uber, like big time. But I also haven't got any from Lyft for a little bit. But usually the bonuses from Lyft are better than the bonuses for Uber. But if I have no bonuses at all, Uber, like the base ride fare from Uber is usually better than the base ride fare from Lyft. Once I was within 10 of the bonus, I got no trips or long trips only. As soon as I was able to get this bonus, I was immediately given short trips instead. They're trying to get you, trying to catch you. Go Gig says it, Driven Dad. I add Uber Eats to complete the bonuses. Some hot bags keep the food order out of my vehicle. Ooh, that's a good idea. Using Uber Eats to fill in the gap. That's a good idea. Driven Dad says shady people suck. In the last 3 months, I've had 2 people say that I was speeding problems. But if Uber just looks at the telemetrics, they could prove people scamming for free rides. Yeah, and they actually said I covered it a little last week. Uber responding to false claims. It's like they're gonna get harsher in how they respond to claims from passengers. I don't want to dive too deep into it. I'm gonna keep moving forward. So I'm gonna move on to the next story. This is funny, and this is the last story. My Uber Eat driver asked me for gas money to deliver my food. This is funny. It's unprofessional, but I understand the angle. Let's see. Complaining about tipping is one thing. Okay. Complaining about tipping is one thing, but how would you feel about paying for gas on top of your food delivery? An Uber Eats driver had ignited a fiery debate after he asked a customer to chip in for some gas when he realized he was running out and was unsure if he'd make it to deliver the food. The customer, Xavier Pope, was perplexed at what was happening, posting a tweet about his experience. This Uber Eats driver just asked me to cash app him gas money to bring my food to me. The Chicago resident tweeted on May 31st. Let's look at that. Let's check it out. I'm also on Twitter, at Tristan Thomas YT. So this is it. There's a lot of comments on it if you're on Twitter and you want to go through what people are saying about it. Pope continues saying the driver was harassing him and wouldn't stop calling. That's a little weird. He has now called me 5 times. This is harassment. He continued, I am about to call the police on this dude. According to the driver, he was about to run out of gas and didn't realize the order was so far away. I'm calling cap on this. I don't think he's about to run out of gas. I think this is extortion. Yo, it's your Uber driver. I can't make it to you unless I can somehow get gas money. In a series of tweets, Pope detailed his interactions with his Uber Eats driver. So he says, this is unprofessional. I understand. I'm very sorry, but let me know what to do. Let me know what you want me to do. I can't be stuck on the highway. Oh, come on, man. It's the same thing as leaving a tip. Give me my food first. That's the problem. I don't have the gas to get your food, or else I wouldn't ask. I just need enough gas to make it to you, sir. I hope this isn't real. I hope that he didn't actually need gas and he was just trying to take advantage of the situation. If I understand life can be hard, but you should always make sure you have enough money to make more money. Like that should always, you should always do that. You need to have like proper accounting to make sure that's the case. The furious and probably hungry customer also shared a picture once the food had arrived. Oh, he delivered it, which he said had been placed on the ground outside like trash. Tasty, he added sarcastically, literally in the alley with the trash. Uber support responded, thanking Pope for bringing the mishap to their attention. Behavior like this is definitely not okay, they wrote. He never confirms whether or not he paid for the man to deliver his food. A member of our team is on top of this and will follow up with you via in-app as well to the email addresses associated with your Uber account. It's something I do not want to experience again, Pope responded in a tweet. A person coming to my home pressuring me for money. My lawyer brain is active on this. Yeah, I can understand how that, I'd feel a little violated by that. Many Twitter users responded saying they had terrible experiences with the delivery app in the past. Got to add Uber Eats drivers withholding my food for more money to the list of reasons why I don't use that service anymore. So little comedy in there, little sad, little ugh. Mike asks, how do you keep your energy levels up when grinding for such long hours? The quick tip is don't start off with caffeine. You'll feel burnt out at some point in the day. You want to save it for when, you're at the back half of it and you're kind of like struggling a little bit. The other tip I have is eat every 2 to 4 hours and eat proper things, right? I'm not gonna say that needs to be the healthiest things, but like you should keep snacking. Like I snack on nuts. I'll bring sandwiches with me, and I'm not eating to fill myself because then I start feeling lethargic. So you want to make sure you're always eating. You want to make sure you're always drinking. Every 4 to 6 hours, make sure you take a break, right? If it's a 15-minute break, you get out of your car, you go use the bathroom. I've realized a lot of times I want to quit and just go home. It's because I just want to use the bathroom. So sometimes when I just take a break, I pull up to Parker's gas station. It's my favorite gas station. That's who I used to be a district manager with. And then I'll walk around. I'll eat. I'll go on a walk for like 15 minutes, and I'll come back. And then I'll just go at it again. I listen to podcasts instead of music. I try to keep my brain active. I'm trying to learn something when I'm in the car. Usually it's Dave Ramsey. If you don't know who Dave Ramsey is, he's the person who's like convinced me that I need to get out of debt. He appears cultish at first, but he has Monday through Friday, he has a 3-hour radio show like every day that he comes out with. So that's 15 hours of content that like I haven't driven in like a week or two. I'm now behind 30 hours in content. So I know that it helps to keep my brain going when I'm listening to things, and it's pretty good. You have people calling in with their financial problems, and they're talking about it in real time, and they're giving you like answers.
work so hard to save up this money.
Completely change your
savings account. So it's not like he's not
Trying to find
losing,
when the caller calls in.
right? Because it's
But I have a hard time
to the next, which bleeds into the next. So give us a call. The number is 888-825-5225, and we would be happy to give you our take on that. The question of the day today is brought to you by Neighborly,
Must be
your
that.
hub for home services. With 19 service brands nationwide, Neighborly's provider network has trusted local service professionals to handle multiple different services in and around your area. Visit neighborly.com/Ramsey to find and schedule your service today.
Today's question comes from Jeremy in Kansas. I'm struggling to pay off debt. Not because I can't afford to, but because it's hard for me to let go of the cash that's in the bank. I have approximately $80,000 in car loans and $450,000 on my mortgage. I have liquid cash of $400,000 and brokerage of $200,000. I know it makes no sense to keep the debt, but I have a hard time not seeing all of the cash available. How do I overcome this mentality? That's a real question, Jade. That's a real feeling.
Answer.
It is a real
lot of people, when they've got all this money in the bank, it hurts because they've worked so hard to save up this money, and they feel like they're making a mistake by deploying it all to pay off debt.
That's right.
But they're forgetting what's on the other side of that.
Math.
Yeah. If you owe $400,000 and you have $400,000 in the bank, that $400,000 is spoken for.
That's right.
By that mortgage company.
Yep.
You're not actually free. You don't actually have this giant pile of money because they want their $400,000.
Yeah.
You're not going to get away from it. So
It's
that's
fake
part of
math.
it is realizing the reality of it's really not my money. It's got someone else's name on it, and until they're paid, I'm not truly free.
Yeah. You know, I think the hard part is so much of what we teach is not based on math, right? It's based on behavior. It's based on a feeling of freedom. This is one that is based on math. Like the math set, like if you, it's almost its own network
So
equation.
you guys get the gist. Why I really like this show is because people of different walks and nature and like different like financial situations, they call in, and eventually someone who looks just like you and has the same money problems you do, they're gonna be calling in. You're gonna like really get in tune with what they're saying, and you just learn so much from other people's experiences. So that's one way that like I keep my brain fresh, just listening to things. That the Driven Dad said, sometimes I take naps. Like so my ability to stay awake predates rideshare. So I will say that. In college, I really learned how to do things last minute, and I really learned how to stay up. There's some walls that once you pass them on the spectrum, you like you have to be able to know the difference between your body being tired and your mind being tired. You have to know the difference between being fatigued and just being mentally out of it. Sometimes I'll be like, I slept 8 hours, I'll be in my car, and I notice that I'm making mistakes that I usually don't make. And I'll just be like, yo, I'm going home. So like you have to be really in tune with your body, but in the same breath, you also have to push yourself to the limit to know how to be in tune with your body. So there's some play with it, but the second you feel unsafe, you pull over, you go to sleep. Like if you're too far from home, you just pull over and go to sleep. It's not above me. All right, so to close out the show, I am going to tell you guys about my new video. It came out like maybe an hour or two ago. You guys should go watch it. It's called Lyft Uber Driver Exposed, $3,000 in 1 week. And it's where I respond to a lot of people who accuse my content of being fake, accuse me of lying, accuse me of working for Lyft. And if you guys go and check out that video, give it a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. And I'll be here next week, Monday. And when this video ends, it should take you to that video. I appreciate all of you guys. Today I had a lot of fun doing this. I'm looking forward to this more often. If I wasn't so busy trying to pay off debt, I'd probably do this more often too. But thank you guys for coming. I really do appreciate it.